And we are live. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Cameron Lynch. And you can normally find us on Off the Edge as brought to you by Bleav. But today we are also, and we never do live streams, Cam, but we are coming to you live on Bleacher Report, the app. And big thanks to them for having us. If you do at any point like this, you can go and follow my guy, Cameron Lynch 50 on Twitter. You can follow me at JK Bogan, and you can follow the show Off the Edge Show on Twitter. You can check out, we have all sorts of shows there, podcasts, all sorts of things, but we are going to be talking and ranking the top 10 NFL breakout players.
Woo.
And with you and I, we both are going to have our own lists here. So excited about that. And I guess we'll just dive right into it.
Heck yeah.
So first off, my first list here, number 10, I'm going to start off with a guy who looked really good last year in limited opportunities. We're talking about James Cook of the Buffalo Bills. He was 5th in rushing yards coming into week 3 before we recorded this. 2022 second rounder out of Georgia. He's 4th in yards after contact. And to me, he's somebody that is not only a runner, but he's also a receiver. And some people thought he was more of a receiver than a runner. He's the Bills' number 1 running back, and he's doing with what he can, Cam, considering the fact that Josh Allen, of course, runs the ball about 10, 14 times a game. So James Cook, I have at number 10.
Nice. Yeah, and I know Josh Allen is slowing the running game up a little bit. I know we saw week 1 where he's jumping in the air because he wants to throw it. He wants to run it. He's trying to figure that out. And I think we talk about this all the time. When Josh Allen figures out his game, right, he has to run a little bit less. Same with other quarterbacks. Talk about Justin Fields before. He has to run a little bit less, and a lot of these guys are figuring it out. But James Cook, Jake, really impressive against the Raiders. He was 17 carries, 123 yards, 7 yards per carry. Outstanding. And I would say it led to that victory, right? Because you think about the Bills and how things went down prior to week 1, it didn't look that great. So it was really cool to see James Cook step up, and then also Josh Allen as well throwing that football.
Absolutely. So James Cook is number 10. We move on to number 9, a UDFA. Cam was an undrafted rookie free agent. Those of you who don't know, former Rams and Buccaneers linebacker and special teams ace. And Ivan Pace just went right onto the defense. First off, Kim, we talked about this on our show. I have no idea why he wasn't drafted, if I'm being honest with you. Ivan Pace is a hell of a linebacker there coming out of Cincinnati, probably because of the size, but size is not a skill. We've talked about that many times. And so the 2023 UDFA is number 5 on PFF for all linebackers. He's tied for 3rd in quarterback pressures among inside linebackers. And to me, this is a UDFA who went right onto the Vikings, coached Brian Flores defense. And you're seeing him become a leader. He's great in coverage. He's athletic. He has great blitzing ability. And this guy has great tackling ability. So I think he's becoming a star right before our eyes.
That's awesome. Anytime there's UDFA, for folks out there listening, like Jake mentioned, I was a UDFA, played for 4 years. And Jake, one thing that I do know is that when there's UDFAs and they play above what they're expected, right? You just mentioned he should have gotten drafted, and he's showing that he should have got drafted. Well, when they go back to renegotiate that contract, his dollar amount is going to go up because they're going to see how many snaps have you played, right? What does that look like? And so there's always incentives in those contracts to say, hey, if this guy's an undrafted guy, well, year 2, year 3, we're going to bump up that contract to show as if he was. So it's a big payday for him, and I'm super happy for Brother Pace. And like you said, size does not matter. It's what's inside, my man. It's what's inside.
Absolutely. So I got number 8 here. He's somebody who's been really rock solid, I think, at the right tackle spot. Same team, by the way. We're sticking with the Vikings here. We're talking about Brian O'Neill, the 2018 second rounder out of Pitt. And I think right now, first off, number 1 PFF offensive tackle. He's allowed only 1 pressure on Kirk Cousins. He's kept him clean for the most part, which has been very vital because of the injuries they're dealing with at left tackle. And then you look at, he's number 2 in, he has the number 2 run blocking grade for all tackles on PFF. And when you watch the tape, he's just been lights out on the right side. And he's always been really good in the run game, but I think he's really starting to mature as a pass protector.
I think that's important, Jake, right? He showed up on this list week 1 and week 2. And so I think he's making his presence known. I think that's really important. And especially at the offensive line position, Jake, you know this, we cover the, I see somebody dropping in the notes here, Rashid Shaheed. That is a good call out there. But just going back to Brian O'Neill, offensive line are extremely important, right? It starts at the offensive line, and those guys being healthy is extremely important. Jake, we covered the Rams, and last year their offensive line was in shambles. So the fact that Brian O'Neill is able to keep Captain Kirk upright and his jersey clean, I think that's extremely important. So Brian O'Neill, maybe he's on the list next week as well, Jake. But a really good call out for him at that tackle position.
Absolutely. And we move on to number 7. It's Grant Delpit, the safety, who has really just, it's been a hard time for him. I think 2020 second rounder just wasn't quite what you would expect coming right out of the draft. He looked like a can't miss safety, in my opinion. But this year, number 2 in all of safeties, according to PFF. He's only allowed 14 yards on 6 receptions. Quarterbacks have a 30.6 passer rating when targeting him. He has an interception and a pass breakup, and he's second in the league for safeties in terms of defensive stops. So when you talk about Grant Delpit, this is somebody that can get downhill and help you, obviously, in the run supportive area of his game, but he also is a little bit of a ball hawk, and he has that playmaker ability. So the Browns have a really good one in a really good defense that we talked about on our last show.
Yes, the Browns defense has been super impressive. The fact that they beat the Bengals the first game out, we were like, we don't know what's going to happen. But guys like you mentioned, like Delpit, being able to force turnovers, Jake, wreak havoc, that's really important. And I would go on to say, like, for linebackers, right, we always think we're safeties. We always think we're D linemen at the same time because it's like that hybrid position. But Delpit on that defense is really important because they have a lot of pressure up front, Jake. That Browns defense applies pressure up front, and the fact that he's holding it down on the back end, that's really important. And their offense is struggling a bit, right? You know, Nick Chubb is out. Deshaun is not playing the best Deshaun that we've seen, and so the defense is going to have to hold it down for the Browns.
Yeah, and I just saw Nico Collins show up in the comments section. And number 6, I got Nico Collins from the Texans. Look, the Michigan wide receiver, 2021 third rounder. It wasn't immediate success, but we're starting to see what he can become. He's the number 4 receiver in terms of PFF, 5th in receiving. He's 3rd in yards per reception, and he's been an elite big play receiver in these first 2 games, Cam. And furthermore, you know, this is somebody that is allowing a rookie like CJ Stroud to get comfortable, not be afraid to chuck it downfield, because this guy, Nico Collins, with his big frame, he's able to go out, high point the football. He's been unbelievable, really. I can't say enough about him. And when you look at, you know, Robert Woods, a veteran, he's been relied on those third downs. And that's something that you'll see is, you know, safety nets for a rookie quarterback. But watching CJ Stroud get more comfortable throwing deep down the field, going for those big plays, it's been because of Nico Collins.
Yeah, I know Nico Collins is going insane right now in the chat. I think it's important for the Texans fans out there to see how things are changing. I think that's really important. It's healthy for us, Jake, right? Because all the time the Texans haven't been doing so well, and the record shows they're still not doing the best. But they have CJ Stroud in there. You know, they have Nico Collins, they have D'Amico, the head coach, right? Just seeing that change is a breath of fresh air. And so I'm looking forward to seeing CJ Stroud excel in this game. I know he had a tough time last week, but hey, 24-hour rules in effect on the next week. But Nico Collins has been showing out for this Texans team, and really good to see.
Absolutely. Number 5 is a guy that we just saw on Monday Night Football. And if you don't know his name, hopefully you'll know it after this. Carl Granderson. He was a 2019 UDFA out of Wyoming. And this Saints edge defender, let me tell you right now, he's 7th on PFF's edge grades. He has 3 sacks. He's tied for 4th in pressures. That's 4th behind Garrett, Bosa, and Parsons. So that's really good company. And to me, he's turning into a star right before our eyes on an absolutely dominant Saints defense. I mean, what they did on Monday Night Football against the Panthers was impressive, man. I mean, we talk about it. You know, you have all sorts of guys there. Cam Jordan, obviously one name that really sticks out. Marshawn Lattimore's been amazing on the back end. But Carl Granderson just they continue to find these guys and just figure out ways to get them going. And Granderson's developed, and you love to see it.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the Saints defense, Jake. I think we talked about this before. They've always been great. And so the fact that he's on that defense is excellent. He gets to learn a lot, right? You mentioned Cam Jordan being on the other side. That's really important because you got not only a captain of the team, but you got a veteran on the team that's able to show young athletes what to do, how to do different moves. And I'm sure he's also able to teach Cam Jordan some things as well. And you mentioned Lattimore. Lattimore is benefiting from guys like him, right? Because anytime defensive end is able to affect the trajectory of a throw, the quarterback, guys like Lattimore benefit from that. So that's excellent to see. And that Saints defense has always been good. It's the offense, Jake, that has to figure things out a little bit. They're figuring out. There's a new quarterback in town, so they have a lot to figure out there. But it's really cool to see the defense move things along a bit. And like you said, they put on a clinic against the Panthers, and it was a good game.
Another breakout guy. He comes in at number 4 here. It is rookie Jalen Carter, the 2023 first rounder who did fall in the draft, fell right into the Eagles' lap. And man, the rich get richer here. He's number 1 on PFF in terms of interior defensive linemen. He leads all interior defensive linemen in terms of quarterback pressures with 11. He is, in my opinion, the favorite to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. And furthermore, when you look at him, he's 4th in terms of quarterback pressures for all positions, Cam. So what Jalen Carter is doing is just incredible. Obviously it's 2 games, but those are 2 big games to be able to come out as a rookie and play at this level, essentially playing like it's college and you're a man amongst boys, but you're in the NFL. It says a lot.
He's a grown man, Jake. At the end of the day, he's a grown man. Jalen Carter, I have him on my list as well. I think I have him as number 3. So I know as we get to this top of this list, our list will converge a bit. But Jalen Carter, it's super impressive to see, Jake. I mean, just the things he had to go through going through the draft, right? There was a lot of friction there. There was a lot of things that was, quote unquote, the media holding him back. But one thing I think you always say this is, we take one step forward. They might take 2 steps forward. They take 2 steps back as well. And so for Jalen, he's always like, hey, it might feel like I took 2 steps back, but I'm consistently going a step forward. And just seeing like you said, the pressure that he's causing, man. I'm like, this guy's a grown man. I couldn't imagine playing linebacker behind a guy like Jalen Carter. I did play behind Aaron, but Jalen Carter as well, right? He's a little bit, he takes a little bit more space. Jake is a different body size. So Jalen Carter, I'm praying he stays healthy. And like you said, the rich get richer. The Eagles continue to get ballers on their team.
It's unbelievable when you think about it. Nolan Smith, and I mean, they got DeAndre Swift, who had, crazy game as well in the draft because of the trade. We move on. We're now in the big 3, and we're starting off another rookie here. Bijan Robinson, 2023 first rounder, Falcons. Not even the bell cow running back because he's been sharing time, some significant time with Algier, but number 1 in terms of PFF running back grades, averaging 6.2 yards per carry. He's got 255 scrimmage yards on 39 touches while sharing a backfield. And to me, he's got to be up there for Offensive Rookie of the Year, if not number 1.
Man, we talked about this, Jake. When they played the Packers had to call Mercedes-Benz Stadium and say, hey, like, I lost my ankles. Like, Bijan broke them off. They're somewhere underneath the stadium. Like, my ankles are gone. And Bijan Robinson, the way we talked about it, the way he attacks defenders, he goes downhill first, not a much dancing. He goes downhill first, and he sticks that foot in the ground. And, man, his cutback moves are insane. I mean, we talked about this. We were defending guys like Bijan. You have to work inside out. Right? When he's running, you got to make sure you're on his back hip, because if you stack him a little bit, he's going to find you and he's going to get you, and your ankles will be left back at the stadium and they're going to hurt. You're going to have to ice them up when you get them back. So Bijan Robinson, super impressive. He can catch the football. He can run the football. And he, like you said, he's sharing the backfield with Algier, who is another great running back for the Falcons. So that offensive line is showing Bijan Robinson, hey, we know you're a great athlete. We love you, and we're going to block for you well. Bijan Robinson, bravo, young man.
Absolutely. And we move on. It's another rookie here. Can't believe we're saying this. Look at how many rookies. I mean, you have 4th, 3rd, and 2nd here. I got Puka Nacua, the Los Angeles Rams. He was the 2023 fifth rounder, looking like a potential Richard Sherman in this draft. When you talk about fifth round picks that have, turned out to be something else, Puka Nacua is leading the league in receptions. He's got the most for any rookie in their first 2 games. He's broken multiple records as a fifth round receiver. Second receiving yards. He's led one of the more dynamic offenses in the league. The Rams offense, it's night and day from last year. A lot of the reason is because of Puka Nacua, especially with Cooper Kupp out. He's got the most catches for a rookie in a single game, 15 in week 2. And he's always open, Cam. Always open. So Puka Nacua is number 2 for me.
Shout out to Mike LaFleur, the new Rams OC. And I know Sean McVay's calling some of the plays as well, but just that subtle change, Jake, right? You get a new cook in the kitchen, the offense changes a little bit. This Rams offense is dynamic. And Jake, Puka Nacua can't do what he's doing unless that offensive line is able to block for him. And we talked about this at the top of the show. The Rams offensive line last year, there were so many different combinations. No one was healthy. And our guy Stafford got hurt because, he couldn't get protected. Now he has protection, Jake. Stafford, to be honest, he would have been on this list, to be honest, if he didn't win a Super Bowl, if he hasn't been in the league for 30 years. But Matthew Stafford is looking like his old self, and that's really good to see. And Puka Nacua is benefiting from it. I mean, my man is leading the league. Like, the first 2 games, he's the most receptions out of any player in the first 2 years or something like that. And then there's someone else on this list that I have on my list that plays with him that I want to talk about as well that's really doing well. But Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp 2.0, I'm going to say it again. He's balling out. And the fact that he has Cooper Kupp to implement and share that knowledge, right? Share the game with him like Robert Woods did for him, for Cooper Kupp. It's paying off nicely for the Rams.
Absolutely. It 100% is. Number 1 for me, before we get on to your list, Cam, is Tua Tagovailoa. Just seeing what he's done, 2020 first rounder, has dealt with concussions. He's dealt with injuries going back to Alabama. He's taken the next step this year. I understand it's, first 2 games, but when you watch the tape, I mean, he's making these throws, making these decisions that, we just haven't seen in the past. And he's number 1 in PFF quarterback. He's first in yards per attempt, and he's 2-0 to start the season in a division where right now the Dolphins sit atop the AFC East in a division that is going to be a dogfight to win. And right now, you can say what you will. He's got, Tyreek Hill. He's got Jalen Waddle. It doesn't matter if he's throwing to River Craycraft. This guy has been doing a great job of distributing the football and winning football games. And we saw that first game against the Chargers was a great example. You had to go toe-to-toe with Justin Herbert on the road. You go to LA at SoFi Stadium and you win that game. And you look that good. You're throwing over 400 yards. I mean, Tua's him, man. If he stays healthy, he can win MVP this year.
He can win an MVP, Jake. I mentioned to you before, I know the Chargers lost to the Titans recently, but I was like, I think we're seeing the AFC Championship game. I know we have the Chiefs. I know we have the Bills and everything like that, but the Dolphins are looking really good. Tua, you just said it. If he stays healthy, my guy is going to be the MVP. The way he's delivering that football with the left hand, Jake, not the right hand, the left hand. He's a little bit different than the other quarterbacks we see, but super impressive, Jake. And another thing, right? When players are playing well, you got to look at the coaching staff. Mike McDaniel, the way he is. You talk about cooks in the kitchen, mad scientist. He is different himself as well, right? I think Jalen Ramsey came out and said it. My man is different. You saw him when he beat Bill Belichick. My man was sprinting down the field, right? He's different, Jake, and he's relatable. And I think Tua is benefiting from that. So that's really excellent to see. He's finding open receivers. He's making smart decisions. I think he did a little USC in the offseason. So now he's rolling a little bit different, able to protect his body. And like you said, if he stays healthy, man, he's going to be someone to reckon with. And he's also number 1 for me. So, Tua, keep going, my man.
So now we move on to Cam's list. For those of you who didn't hear my list, we went number 10. We had James Cook. Number 9, Ivan Pace Jr. Number 8, Brian O'Neill. Number 7, Grant Delpit. Number 6, Nico Collins. Number 5, Carl Granderson. Number 4, Jalen Carter. Number 3, Bijan Robinson. Number 2, Puka Nacua. And number 1, Tua Tagovailoa. So Cam, let it rip.
Let it rip. That's a great list, Jake. And I think we have about 3 or 4 guys that cross over on that list. So we'll touch on them a little bit and talk about them, but not too much because we've already covered them. But excited to jump into this, Jake. Number 10 for me. I'm going to start from the bottom, right? Marvin Mims. He was one of my guys, Jake. Marvin Mims. Recently, they played the Washington football team, Jake, and you can see my man sprinting across the field, going over top of safeties for 60-yard touchdowns. And he's someone I was like, hey, guys, you got to watch out for him because he has elite speed. And it's really good, to be honest, Jake, to see Russell Wilson deliver the football in an excellent way, because I know he left Seattle, and you mentioned before that, hey, Seattle might see a little bit of aging, a little bit of a decline in Russell Wilson. I think Marvin Mims is able to keep Russell at the top of his game the best that he can. I love that deep shot, the Hail Mary towards the end of that game that was completed. Unfortunately, they couldn't get the 2-point conversion. I think you mentioned it on our podcast the other day that it's another reliving that Seattle Seahawks championship moment versus the Patriots, and he couldn't convert then. He couldn't convert for this game, but Marvin Mims, Jake, is looking good, and I have him as number 10, and I expect to see him be another threat, a continued threat, and for Russell Wilson. So what are your thoughts on Marvin Mims, Jake?
Well, right now, Marvin Mims is tied with DK Metcalf in terms of yards and touchdowns. So, I think he's off to a great start in his young career. I mean, we looked at him at Oklahoma. You mentioned him during our draft coverage early on in our inception of Off the Edge. And that was your guy, and you stuck by it. And I think Russell Wilson, he needs to play better, but I think he is starting to play a little bit better. And Marvin Mims, I think, is going to reap the rewards, especially now that Jerry Jeudy's back and you have Cortland Sutton. All of a sudden, that receiver room looks a little dangerous. Yeah,
the receiver room is looking dangerous, Jake. I think that's important, like I said, for guys like Russell Wilson to finish strong, because we don't know how much time we have with Russell. So guys like I said, Marvin can make things a little bit sweeter for Russell as he kind of winds down his career a little bit. Jake, number 9 for me, a big pickup by the Lions in the draft. He's a rookie, and he's been doing pretty darn well, Jake, at the tight end position. But Sam Laporta, right? We talk about Jared Goff, and when he left the Rams, it's like, okay, is Jared still that guy? I don't know. And he is that guy. Jared has taken this Lions team to a different level, which has been great. And he has support in Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta, 6'3", 245, coming out of Iowa, has been a game record, really. He's been doing really good. 102 receiving yards, I think, total these past 2 weeks. He's 5th in receptions, I think, out of all tight ends, 4th overall via PFF. So he's crushing it, Jake. And I do think teams are going to start honing in on him, right? They're going to be like, hey, make sure we cover Sam Laporta because he's doing pretty well. I'm in around St. Brown as well, right? He's not somebody on this list, but someone that I have to say, hey, Amon-Ra is one of those honorable mention breakout players as well. But Sam Laporta, I just want to highlight him because he's been a great tool for our guy, Jared Goff, Jake. But I'm curious to hear what you think about Sam Laporta as well.
Love Sam Laporta. He was my number 1 tight end in this draft coming out. And he has more yards than TJ Hawkinson. He's among the league leaders. And this is somebody who, look, we weren't expecting to get right out of the gate. Tight end is one of the hardest positions to play in this sport. And to just come out and, be that reliable target for Jared Goff, especially with the Jamison Williams news coming into the season, it's been a breath of fresh air for the Lions offense. Now, unfortunately, they're 1-1 and not 2-0. But Laporta has nothing to do with that because he's made his presence known.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And I know we started off with the rookie. Sam's a rookie. And the bottom of this list, the breakout players are the rookies. I had the veterans saved for the top of the list. Jalen Carter, he's a little bit different. He's an anomaly in that sense. But next, Jake, I have Christian Gonzalez, cornerback for the Patriots. What they want is what they got. At the end of the day, he had a great game. He versus the Dolphins, right? He's going against Tua, so it's going to be a tough matchup. And he did pretty well. He only allowed 39% of the passes that were thrown to him. Only gave up 3 receptions out of the 5 targets. So he's figuring it out, right? Tua is the best quarterback in the league, so of course he's going to get torched, but he also had an interception against Tua. So I think that's really important as well, the fact that he got his hands on the football against the best quarterback in the league, probably the best team, one of the best teams in the league as well. I think that's really important. So I know Belichick is smiling from ear to ear, not after that game, not after that loss, but with a pickup like Christian Gonzalez, I think that's important. And Jake, one thing I want to say is some of these draft picks, you want them to do well, right? There's a lot of pressure for these young players and to perform, especially at the Patriots. So I think that it's important that we make sure that, hey, these guys are doing well. We show love to them. But we're going to get into the veterans pretty soon here. But I want to hear what you think about Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah, no, I love Christian Gonzalez. I have no idea how he fell so far. There's always like a couple of those weird falls from grace in the draft. I mean, a few years ago, Derwin James falling to what, 13, 14. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense. I mean, I don't know what you're evaluating if a guy like that's falling, but no, I think Christian Gonzalez is a perfect fit for what they were looking for. And he's, first 2 games, he's going up against really good wide receivers, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. You talk about, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. He's seen already some of the best in his first 2 games.
Yeah, man, those are excellent. Those are guys that can really embarrass you. Like guys that can really say, hey, welcome to the league, young man. Like, we're the best here, and you're going to have a tough time. But one person I want to bring up, Jake, don't want to forget about him, right? Because I know he got drafted in 2020 when Tom Brady was there. They won a championship. But Tristan Wirfs, coming out of Iowa, there's a couple of Iowa guys on this list, but Tristan Wirfs, you think about the draft, jumping out of the pool. Like, who's this 325-pound person that's 6'5", jumping out of a pool? And that's Tristan, super athletic. And one thing I do like about him, Jake, is he hypes up his teammates, Jake. He was talking about Mike Evans like they were about to get married the next day. He was like, Mike Evans, this guy, 100-something yards, come on. And so I love not only the way he plays, but his character as well, Jake. You talk about just what he does. Baker Mayfield, he can stay a little clean, Jake, because he has guys like Tristan Wirfs that he knows is going to block for him. I think that's really important. I think he's been one of the best offensive linemen. I think probably top 10. We had him on our list, but top 10 offensive lineman, I think, since he's been in the NFL. And he's only getting better, Jake. So I'm looking forward to see how he keeps Baker Mayfield healthy throughout the end of this year, because for the Buccaneers to win, Baker has to be healthy or Kyle Trask is going to come in. We'll see how that goes. But Tristan Wirfs, excellent athlete, excellent person.
No, Tristan Wirfs, he was awesome coming out of Iowa, was a big fan of his game, and he's just become one of the best, if not the best, at his position. So just an outstanding player, and I totally agree with you there. And then you have one coming up that, man, you have my guy coming up.
Yeah, your guy, Tutu Atwell from the Rams. I mean, you talk about Puka Nacua. I didn't take Puka Nacua from my list because I figured that you were going to have Puka Nacua on your list, but Puka would have been on my list as well. Tutu is playing really freaking well. I mean, I think Sean McVay mentioned it on his presser. He's like, people are like, oh, Puka Nacua, did you expect this? You expect that? He's like, dude, have you not been watching our games? I mean, if you talk about reverses, you talk about deep balls, short passes, whatever it is, Puka Nacua is going to, Tutu Atwell and Puka Nacua are going to be those guys that catch the football and players we can rely on, as in the Rams, right? Matthew Stafford relies on those guys. He trusts them, and I think that's important. I think you mentioned on one of your socials that when Cooper Kupp is back, they could have the most dynamic wide receiver trio in the league. And I agree, Jake. These guys are balling out, and it's really good to see.
Yeah, I mean, through the first 2 games of the season, there's not a duo in the NFL. That's not Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. That's not T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. That's not Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. There's not a duo that has more total receiving yards than Tutu Atwell and Puka Nacua. And that's a crazy thing to say, mind-blowing thing to say in 2023, but they have absolutely killed it. And talking about Tutu, like, this is somebody that was written off by his own fan base, like called a bust. They should have drafted Creed Humphrey. I mean, he heard it all. And he didn't go on social media and complain about it. He didn't go in people's DMs and yell at them about it. No, he went to work. He worked on himself. He got hurt his first year when they won the Super Bowl. So the poor guy couldn't even play in that game. So he's on IR, and they end up winning the Super Bowl, and he sees the preparation. He's around all these talented receivers. And now here he is becoming one of these talented receivers, almost 200 yards. He's one of the top 5 receivers in first down conversions. And when you talk about him just being able to catch everything thrown his way, well, that doesn't quite fit the bill of a one-trick pony that's 5'9" and 160 pounds soaking wet now, does it?
Yeah, Tutu Atwell, super impressive. It's really cool to see guys like him come along. And like we said, in football, it's about the size of the fighting the dog rather than the size of the dog. And Tutu is one of those guys. He's five something soaking wet, but he plays like he's 6'2", and I think that's really important. All right, Jake, we're in our top 5. I know we're coming up on time here, but one person I wanted to highlight for the bottom of this top 5, and hopefully he makes his way up. Zaire Franklin, linebacker for the Colts. I mean, we think about the Colts linebackers, think about Shaq Leonard. I'm not sure what he changed his name to at this point, but you know, you have to respect Zaire, right? When Shaq got his big payment, I forget how many millions of dollars he got. I told one of my friends in the chat, I was like, hey, if Shaq's getting that, Zaire's playing next to him. So that means when Zaire gets to negotiate, you know, maybe somewhere in that ballpark. And they're like, are you crazy? And now Zaire's like, look, guys, I'm him. Full stop. Zaire is the number 1 linebacker in via PFF in the NFL. He's first in tackles, first in forced fumbles. My man is balling. And I think it's really important to show that you mentioned it. If you're not a first rounder, it's okay. If you're not a second rounder, it's okay. When you get drafted, if you get an opportunity to step on that football field, make the most out of it. And Zaire is Syracuse guy. Much love, Zaire.
Yeah, no, he's playing really well. We were talking about the other day, the Colts have needed this, and he's really stepped up in a big way. So I like the pick there at 5 because he's really turning himself. And this is what it's all about. This is what this list is all about, is what, you know, breakout players, like not talking about your Patrick Mahomes, but like guys that maybe aren't getting that recognition. We're throwing them out there. You guys now can look out for these guys when you watch, you know, this NFL Sunday.
Exactly, Jake. And at number 4, I changed things around a little bit because I think our top 5, we have some similar ones. So number 4, I have Brandon Ayuk from the 49ers playing wide receiver. Like I said, we cover the Rams, and we often have to see the 49ers twice a year, and we have to respect it. Brandon Ayuk, we think about Deebo Samuels, Christian McCaffrey. Brandon Ayuk is becoming a superstar on that team, right? It's happening before our eyes. I know last game he got hurt, he got banged up, but he still did his best to, you know, finish the game and play through it. But Brandon Ayuk, I mean, he had like 2 TDs the first week, and he's just someone that if you're playing the 49ers, I know you're going to keep double teaming Deebo and looking out for Christian, but keep an eye on Brandon because he will beat your team, and he's been super impressive so far.
I absolutely agree. What he has done to the 49ers offense, the route runner he's become, he is just right before our eyes becoming a superstar. And that's a guy that you just absolutely have to know where he is at all times, because it doesn't matter how good your corners are. I mean, he can make anybody pay. He's so great, just completely, you know, his release off the line of scrimmage, his, you know, obviously his footwork, his package, you know, his route package and things like that. Just like he's just honestly turning into one of the best receivers in football.
Yeah, it's really cool to see. And Jake, I know we're coming up on time here, but I'm going to go through my list one more time, and I'm going to call out my top 3, which is similar to your top 3. But at number 10, I had Marvin Mims, 9, Sam Laporta, Christian Gonzalez, Tristan Wirfs, Tutu Atwell, Zaire Franklin, Brandon Ayuk. And then getting to our top 3, I got number 3, Bijan Robinson, number 2, Jalen Carter, and number 1, Tua. I think those 3 guys, we talked about them before, but they are emerging onto the scene. 2 of them are rookies, and it's really exciting. I think the game of football is in a great place with athletes like this. They're taking care of our game nicely. It's really cool to see. But at number 1, Tua, full stop. He's balling now.
Well, guys, this has been a lot of fun. This is the first time Off the Edge has appeared on Bleacher Report, and we appreciate you having us. Jake Ellenbogen, Cameron Lynch. You can follow me at JK Bogan on Twitter. You can follow Cameron Lynch at Cameron Lynch 50. We have all sorts of content, so you could find, right on our Twitter pages, the bio. You can find all that stuff via Linktree. We're on YouTube. We're on Apple. We're on everywhere, essentially. Wherever audio and video can be. And you can find us if you like the Rams. We also cover the Rams, Bleav in Rams podcast. And you can find that actually if you're on the West Coast on Bally's West. every single Thursday at 10:30 p.m. Pacific time. So pretty awesome stuff there. Once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Be sure to share this around if you enjoyed it. And thanks again to Bleacher Report for having us. You guys take care, and we'll see you soon.